Guys, it's Lost in Plot, and today we've got Alex Garland's new film, Men.
Man.
Yeah, it does that.
That's right, Alex Garland. This is a horror film starring our lead, a woman named Harper, who is just trying to escape her failed marriage. She's going to divorce her husband, but before she can divorce him, he says, "I'm gonna kill myself, and it'll be your fault.
If you leave me, I'll do this, and you'll have to live with it."
And he wasn't bluffing because he does it, so she's going through a lot of guilt and trauma. She decides to take a 2-week vacation in the British countryside.
That's right. She's going to rent herself a nice, pretty big-sized cottage all by herself and just kind of veg out and self-help.
That's right, all by herself, but quickly once she gets there, things become bizarre.
'Cause there's men!
There's men. Things become bizarre and terrifying very, very quickly because all the men that she meets have the same face. They're different ages, different proportions, but they're all the same face. And then she goes out to take a nice walk in the countryside and she stumbles upon a naked
Man.
And there we go. So that's what we have for this. What the plot does after that is, I don't know, anybody's guess.
Well, let's talk about what this movie gets right. At least for me, when I watch this movie, this is an auteur. There is no doubt about it. This is Alex Garland at the peak of his skills. From a director, definitely. From a writer, not so much. Great performances, great sequences of suspense, of build, an amazing use of sound. Everything is shot beautifully, framed wonderfully. It's really something to behold.
It's gorgeous. It sounds great. What he does to play with sound and terror and just the feeling of uneasiness, this makes you feel really uneasy in all the best ways that a horror film should. So you're totally correct. He's at the top of his craft. Technically, this is really, really good. And this could have been a great film. Now, I said it could have been a great film. It wasn't though. And the reason is we come back to the script and in particular the third act, because I kind of look at this film as an incomplete thought.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to, and it's frustrating for me, and everybody's sensibilities are different. So maybe you're a big film school person, you like looking at symbolism and trying to derive meaning from random images and the surreal. Great, you might actually love what you get here. But this third act ventures so far into the surreal that you're basically not in the same story that you started out with for like the first hour and 20 minutes. You're now in this kind of virtual fantasy world of just kind of random ideas where you're not sure if what's real or who's in terror or what we're trying to say with all the imagery, and then it just gets flat out gross.
And that is to say that by the end of it, you won't know what was real and what wasn't real. And if that's going to annoy you or just piss you off, you're going to have to deal with that. Now, what the film is really about is all of these male figures that she deals with in this little town. And again, this is after she's dealing with the loss of her husband, who tried to emotionally blackmail her into staying into their marriage. These men are being manipulative, and you get the sense that they're always trying to trap her, and you don't know why. And they're playing on her guilt and playing on their need for love, like she owes them something. So these men are really just cruel, evil, terrible things, and it's all kind of the same man. But is it the same man, or is it a creature? What's going on here? Those specifics you're not going to find out. Draw your own conclusions. That's kind of the point of this, because you're really meant to gaze into the wonder on screen of seeing a naked man, full grown, emerge from the birth canal of another naked man, slithering out into life.
Yep, you're staring face first into the wonder, and Alex Garland's going to put your face right up there to the point
right in it.
It's almost like having a baby birthed into your mouth. That's what you get, and you don't get it once, because man begat man begat man begat man. And it's not a spoiler to say, it's more of a warning. I wish somebody would have warned me. It is repulsive, and it's supposed to be, and that's why he's thrusting your face right in there. It's something you've never seen before, something I hope I never see again.
Men getting pregnant and giving birth to other men. This is maybe the one
Grown,
distinct
middle-aged
time
men
that I will always remember being in the theater and physically recoiling from the screen because I didn't want to be where it was shoving me with the close-up into the giant CGI vagina.
And honestly, after
CGI
when the credits rolled, I stood up after seeing that, and I looked around at all the other people who were there, and there's a handful of people there, and I felt such embarrassment.
Did you?
And I looked at them, and we wouldn't really make eye contact. We couldn't, acknowledge that we were all there, and we just watched men birthing other men together. It was a very strange and just bad experience. And I walked out of there feeling just dirty and embarrassed and even somewhat ashamed. It's not my fault. I didn't know what was in the movie, but it was a one-of-a-kind feeling, that's for sure, when I walked out of the theater.
Well, you're right, and it's not your fault. So this is something that is absolutely, say what you want about it, this is absolutely not boring.
No.
This will keep you watching all the way through, and it will absolutely repulse and revile you at certain points, and it's meant to do that. But at the end of it, we're waiting for the directors and the writer-director, because Alex Garland wrote and directed this, we're waiting for his final statement about this. Well, what are you saying about the relationship between man and woman? There's iconography from the Bible, from the tree of knowledge, from the temptation of the snake, where Eve gave Adam the apple. There's a lot of this stuff, and then there's even pagan iconography that I looked up as well, interplaying here. So it's all kind of into this big stew of weird terror. And you're wondering at the end of it, it's like, well, what are we getting here? You know, it's like if you had a really eccentric rich friend and he invited you over for an evening pig roast. Yeah?
Okay.
And it's a pretty good pig, and we're having a good time, and we're having good conversation, but we're waiting for the main course, the main event of the evening, and you go to find him, and he's passed out in his favorite armchair because he smoked too much weed.
Yeah, I mean, when you're building on all these themes and you're trying to make a point, you're telling the story, and then in the third act you're just like, oh, but really nothing's real and everything's random and it's surreal and you're entering into this fantasy void. It's like, well, then you really haven't said anything because you've unmade reality to
Where
the
are
point
we,
where
man?
you can't comment on.
Where are we?
And then you just kind of leave us there. And then at the end they throw in this scene like, oh, maybe some of it was real. And it didn't do anything for me. It didn't salvage it at all, and it made it devoid of meaning as opposed to actually giving you something that you could even form a discussion on. It's so random and absurd and bizarre and avant-garde that it's like, well, nothing was real, and there's really nothing that could be pulled of it because it subverts meaning.
And it forced me to go out and read an interview that Alex Garland did to try and get some additional context on that, and I found out that he cut a few moments of the final scene, which would have more definitively gave you an answer. And he did that because he wants people to draw their own conclusions. Now, this is the guy who also wrote and directed Ex Machina, which is a fantastic sci-fi film with Oscar Isaac. He wrote the script for 28 Days Later. He's done a bunch of other things. And what he said in that interview was he likes when the audience comes up to him and says, well, this is what you're doing here. And he just kind of shrinks back and is like, well, that's not what I'm doing. Oh, you think I'm doing that? No, that wasn't mine.
Well, I know what you're doing on this one.
No, you don't. No,
yes,
you don't.
I do. You're taking your own head and shoving it up your ass. That's what you've done here. I think we've lost Alex Garland.
You think that's what I'm doing?
I think we've lost.
You think that's what I'm doing?
Yes.
So that's the position he wants to be in, and some people will really like that. Some people don't want the film to be explained and just given to you and say, think that about it. Some people like that it's so ambiguous that they can draw their own conclusion and decide what they want to think or how they want to interpret it. If that's you, then this is something for you. This is something to go see. Because there are a lot of really interesting and wild ideas, and it is genuinely terrifying for probably the first two acts. The third act, when I don't know what in the hell's going on, then I can't get scared anymore. That's how I felt. I don't know if you were still on the ride at that point.
No, I was well off the ride at that point. The third act kind of loses me entirely.
So that's where I go back to saying, well, I wish it was a complete thought, because he left it open like that. I wanted a little bit more. I wanted to know what was real and what wasn't. At the end of the day, I'll tell people and talk to them about, I saw men giving birth to other men in this film. That's the film where all the men give birth to each other. And that's how I'll remember Men, and it is Dead, at a 4 out of 10 for me. Again, this could have been great. There was some really good stuff here, but at the end of the day, it's just like...
Yeah, it's Dead for me too.
Away from that screen.
It's a 5 out of 10 for me. I can't deny the skill. This is an amazing auteur filmmaker, but I can't deny the complete mess that is the third act. All right, it's a great game of chess, and just before the final moves are made, somebody just smashes the board to pieces, and then that's the end of it. So, guys, if you've seen Alex Garland's Men, if you watched it in a theater like me, and please Tell me about your thoughts as when you stood up when the credits finally rolled and if they were similar to mine. Leave your thoughts and feedback down below. Like and subscribe. Check us out on Twitter. And see you all on the next one.